Alan Hughes stared at the holographic display, his eyes narrowing at the strange patterns floating before him. The quiet hum of computers filled his office in the Lunar Council building, Earth hanging like a blue jewel in the window behind him. Something wasn't right with the deep space monitoring data, and as a senior member of the Human Interstellar Council, his instincts had rarely failed him. He zoomed in on a particular section of space near the Proxima colony. Faint energy signatures pulsed and disappeared, like ghosts in the night. They'd been appearing more frequently over the past month, always near human settlements, always just at the edge of detection range. "Computer, call Lisa Martinez," he said, his voice steady despite his growing concern. The holographic display shifted, showing the face of a woman in her 40s with determined brown eyes. "Alan, it's late. What's keeping you up?" "Lisa, I need you to look at something. I'm sending the data now." He swiped the energy signature readings toward the communication panel. "Tell me if I'm seeing things." Lisa's eyes moved rapidly as she reviewed the information. Her expression grew serious. "These patterns, they're not natural. The energy signatures suggest advanced cloaking technology. Someone's watching us." "That's what I was afraid of," Alan said, running a hand through his graying hair. "How many colony worlds have reported similar readings?" 7 so far, all in the past 3 weeks. Lisa pulled up additional data. The signatures are identical. Whoever they are, they're coordinated and methodical. Alan stood up and walked to the window, looking at Earth. Humanity had come so far in the past century. Colonies on Mars, settlements in the Alpha Centauri system, mining operations throughout the asteroid belt. Peace had reigned since the establishment of the Human Interstellar Council 50 years ago. But peace, he knew, was often temporary. "Call an emergency council session," he ordered. "Priority 1. We meet in 2 hours." The council chamber, buried deep beneath the lunar surface, was designed to impress. Curved walls of polished stone rose to a domed ceiling that displayed a real-time map of known human space. 20 council members sat around a circular table, their faces illuminated by soft blue light. Alan stood at the podium, with Lisa beside him. The room fell silent as he began to speak. 2 months ago, our deep space monitoring systems detected unusual energy signatures near the Collins colony. We dismissed it as an anomaly. We were wrong. He gestured, and the dome above filled with data streams. These signatures have now been detected near 7 different colony worlds. They show clear signs of artificial origin and advanced cloaking technology. Murmurs filled the chamber. Council member Grace Phillips leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we're being observed by an alien civilization?" "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Alan replied. "And given their level of technology and the pattern of observation, we need to consider this a potential threat." Dr. Richard Chen, head of Stenoscience, raised his hand. "We've had no direct contact. Perhaps they're simply curious." "Curious observers don't need military-grade cloaking technology," Lisa interjected. She brought up new displays showing energy analysis. These signatures match theoretical models for quantum stealth systems. They're not just hiding from our eyes. They're hiding from our most advanced detection systems. The council chamber erupted in worried discussions. Alan waited for the noise to settle before continuing. "I propose we initiate Defense Protocol 7. We need to upgrade our early warning systems, increase patrol frequencies around all colonies, and begin preparations for possible first contact scenarios." Council member Benjamin Scott shook his head. "That would require enormous resources. The public will notice. We could cause panic." "Better panic than being unprepared," said Lisa. She brought up a new display showing colony populations. "We have over 10 million citizens living on outer worlds. If these visitors have hostile intentions, we need to be ready." The debate continued for hours. Alan listened as council members argued about resources, public reaction, and the possibility they were overreacting. Finally, Council President Sandra Morris called for a vote. "The motion to implement Defense Protocol 7 passes," she announced. Mr. Hughes, you will head the response team. Ms. Martinez, coordinate with Colonial Defense Forces. We need better detection systems, and we need them quickly. As the council members filed out, Alan remained at the podium, studying the energy signature data. Lisa approached him, her tablet displaying new information. "Alan, there's something else you should see," she said quietly. "We just received this from the Carter station near Proxima. The signature patterns are changing. They're becoming more frequent, more concentrated." Alan studied the new data, his expression grim. "They're not just observing anymore. They're gathering." "What do you think they want?" "I don't know," Alan replied, watching as another signature appeared on the display. "But I have a feeling we're going to find out soon." Back in his office, Alan recorded a private log entry. Date: January 31, 2225. We've spent decades reaching for the stars, proud of our achievements, secure in our solitude. We thought we were alone in our corner of space. We were wrong. The question now isn't whether we'll have first contact, but what kind of contact it will be. And if these visitors prove hostile. He paused, looking at the latest detection reports. Then humanity needs to be ready for a fight we never expected. He ended the recording and turned to the window. Earth still hung there, beautiful and vulnerable. Somewhere out there, hidden behind advanced technology, unknown ships watched human colonies. Alan Hughes had always believed humanity would eventually encounter alien life. He just hoped they were prepared for what was coming. The next morning, as lunar base crew members began their day shifts, Alan and Lisa met with the newly formed response team. Engineers, military strategists, and scientists gathered around a large holographic display showing all known human settlements. "Our priority is detection," Alan explained. "We need to know who they are and what they're capable of. Every colony needs upgraded sensor arrays. Every ship needs new scanning protocols. And if they decide to reveal themselves," asked Dr. Nathan Cole, a young physicist with a reputation for innovative thinking, "then we need to be ready for any possibility." Alan replied, "Peaceful or otherwise." As the team began their work, Alan couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. Humanity had reached the stars reaching for knowledge and adventure. Now they might have to fight to keep what they'd built. The game had changed, and somewhere out there, hidden behind their cloaking technology, someone was watching, waiting, and planning their next move. Commander Susan White stood on the bridge of the ISS Starlight, watching as her ship approached the coordinates where the latest energy signatures had been detected. After 3 months of increased surveillance and military preparation, the Human Interstellar Council had decided to force a meeting with their mysterious observers. "Any signs of cloaked vessels?" she asked her sensor officer, Keith Barnes. "Multiple signatures, Commander. They're not even trying to hide anymore." Keith's fingers moved across his console. 3. No, 5 large vessels decloaking ahead. The ships that appeared before them were unlike anything humanity had ever built. Dark purple hulls absorbed light rather than reflecting it, and their design seemed to defy conventional physics. They were massive, each one easily 3 times the size of the Starlight. "Open communications on all frequencies," Susan ordered. "This is Commander Susan White of the Human Interstellar Council vessel Starlight. We come in peace and request dialogue." The response came as a harsh, guttural sound that the ship's computers quickly translated. "We are the Kratheen. You occupy our space. This dialogue is a courtesy before we reclaim what is ours." Susan kept her voice steady. "There must be some misunderstanding. Our colonies were established in unclaimed systems. We found no evidence of prior settlement." The alien voice became harder. "Your understanding is irrelevant. These systems were marked for future Kratheen expansion 10,000 of your years ago. Your presence is an encroachment." "Surely we can discuss this," Susan replied. "The Human Interstellar Council is willing to negotiate fair." "There is nothing to negotiate," the Kratheen interrupted. You have one standard rotation of your Earth to begin evacuation of all colonies in disputed space. After that, we will remove you." The transmission cut off. Susan immediately opened a channel to the council. Alan Hughes's face appeared on the main screen, looking grave. "Report, Commander." "Sir, it's worse than we thought. They call themselves the Kratheen. They're claiming ownership of our colonial systems based on ancient territorial markers. They've given us 24 hours to evacuate." "That's impossible," Alan said. "We have millions of civilians across those colonies. Even if we wanted to evacuate, we couldn't do it in time." "I don't think they expect us to succeed, sir," Susan replied. "They want an excuse." The situation deteriorated rapidly. Within hours, Kratheen ships appeared near every major human colony. At Alpha Centauri, the largest human settlement outside the solar system, their actions turned hostile. 3 Kratheen warships positioned themselves in a blockade formation around Alpha Centauri Prime. When colonial defense ships attempted to maintain their regular patrol routes, the aliens fired warning shots, beams of energy that turned the space around the human vessels into plasma. "They're demonstrating their technological superiority," Lisa Martinez observed during an emergency council session. "Those weapons, our shields wouldn't stand a chance." The council chamber was tense. The holographic displays showed real-time updates from all colonies, with red warning indicators flashing across human space. "We cannot abandon our colonies," Council President Sandra Morris declared. "But a direct military confrontation would be suicide. We need options." Dr. Richard Chen spoke up. "Their technology level suggests they've been spacefaring for thousands of years. But they're not invincible. Every technology has its weaknesses. The problem is finding those weaknesses before they decide to stop playing nice," Alan added. He pulled up footage from the Alpha Centauri blockade. "Look at their ship movements. They're precise, coordinated. They fight like a hive mind." The crisis reached its peak when a civilian transport near the Collins colony refused to change course. The Kratheen response was immediate and brutal. A single energy burst disabled the ship's systems, leaving it drifting in space. The message was clear. They weren't making idle threats. Commander White, still patrolling near the initial contact point, received new orders. "Hold position but do not engage. We need time to analyze their capabilities." She watched as more Kratheen ships arrived, their dark hulls creating shadows against the stars. Her tactical officer, Ryan Cooper, worked frantically at his station. "Commander, I'm detecting something odd about their shield harmonics," he said. "When they fire their weapons, there's a slight fluctuation in their cloaking field. It's barely noticeable, but it's consistent." Susan immediately relayed this information to Council headquarters. It wasn't much, but it was the first potential weakness they'd found. Back on the moon, Alan Hughes met with a select group of scientists and military strategists. The observation room was filled with data displays showing Kratheen ship movements and weapon signatures. "Traditional warfare isn't an option," he stated. "We need to think differently. They have better ships, better weapons, better shields. But they've never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of." Dr. Nathan Cole pointed to the shield fluctuation data. "Their technology relies heavily on manipulating quantum fields. If we could disrupt those fields, we'd need a way to affect their entire fleet simultaneously," Lisa Martinez added. "They're too strong for us to fight one ship at a time." The discussion was interrupted by an urgent message. The Kratheen had begun moving troops onto the surface of an outer colony world. They weren't just threatening invasion anymore. They were starting one. Council President Morris made a public address to all human settlements. "We face an unprecedented threat to our sovereignty and survival. But humanity did not reach the stars by surrendering to threats. We will not abandon our homes. We will not bow to intimidation. We will find a way." As the 24-hour deadline approached, tension throughout human space reached a breaking point. Colonial defense forces maintained their positions, knowing they were outgunned but unwilling to abandon their posts. Commander White watched the clock counting down on her bridge display. The Krathian ships hadn't moved, but their weapons were charged and ready. "Status report," she ordered. "All systems ready, Commander," Ryan replied. "But against their weapons. We may not have the strongest ships," Susan said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "But we have something they don't expect. We have nothing to lose and everything to fight for." The deadline passed. Throughout human space, everyone waited for the Krathian to make their move. But before the aliens could act, a message came from Luna Base. Alan Hughes had a plan. "We can't match their technology," he told the Council. "But maybe we don't have to. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. And light might be the key to everything." The first shots of the war were about to be fired. But humanity wasn't going down without a fight, and they had just found their first real hope of survival. Dr. Peter Nash hadn't slept in 3 days, but he didn't care. The holographic equations floating before him in his lab beneath Luna Base held the key to humanity's survival. He adjusted another variable, and the simulation changed. "That's it," he whispered, watching the light particles in his model interact with a simulated Krathian cloaking field. "Computer, run test sequence gamma." The simulation showed a burst of precisely controlled quantum light particles disrupting the alien cloaking technology. Peter immediately called Alan Hughes. "Sir, I think I found something. They're cloaking systems. They're sensitive to specific quantum light frequencies. If we can generate the right particle pattern, we could force their ships to become visible." Hélène arrived at the lab within minutes, with Lisa Martinez close behind. Peter showed them the simulation results. "Look here," he pointed to the data stream. "Their technology relies on bending light around their ships. But if we can introduce quantum-entangled particles at exactly the right frequency, we could turn their own technology against them." Lisa finished, her eyes widening. "How soon can you build a prototype?" "With the right team and resources, maybe 2 weeks." Peter brought up the design specifications. "But we'll need something bigger than a lab experiment to affect their entire fleet." Hélène nodded. "You'll have whatever you need. I'm authorizing Project Aurora effective immediately." He turned to Lisa. "Get Chief Engineer Mary Patterson up here. If anyone can turn this into a working system, it's her." Within days, the lowest level of Luna Base transformed into a hive of activity. Mary Patterson, a brilliant engineer known for making the impossible possible, took charge of the development team. "The theory is sound," she said during the first project meeting. "But we need to think bigger, much bigger. We're not just building a weapon, we're creating a network that can cover all of human space." The team worked around the clock. While Peter refined the quantum light manipulation process, Mary designed a system of satellites that could generate and control the particles across vast distances. The project consumed massive resources, but with Krathian ships still threatening every human colony, no one questioned the cost. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Kevin Roberts, a young physicist fresh out of university, noticed something in the test data. "Dr. Nash," he called out one morning, "the quantum particles aren't just disrupting their cloaking systems. Look at these energy readings." Peter rushed over to Kevin's workstation. The data showed the light particles weren't just making the Krathian ships visible. They were interfering with their shield harmonics. "This isn't just a detection system," Kevin explained, excitement in his voice. "It's a weapon. If we can generate enough particles at the right frequency, we could temporarily disable their shields." The discovery changed everything. Project Aurora shifted from a defensive system to humanity's first real chance at fighting back. Mary Patterson modified the satellite designs to include stronger particle generators. "We'll need hundreds of these in precise positions throughout human space," she explained to the Council. "Each one capable of generating and controlling quantum light particles across millions of kilometers. How do we keep the Krathian from detecting the construction?" Council President Morris asked. "We hide in plain sight," Alan replied. We'll disguise the satellites as communication relay stations. The Krethine have been letting us maintain our communication networks. They don't see us as a threat. The construction had to be done in secret. Small groups of engineers, sworn to secrecy, installed the satellites one by one. Each installation was disguised as routine maintenance on existing communication systems. Peter Nash barely left his lab during those weeks. The equations needed to be perfect. One miscalculation in the quantum particle generation could make the entire network useless. The real challenge, he explained to Alan during a progress briefing, is synchronizing all the satellites. The particle bursts have to be perfectly timed, or they won't have enough effect. Mary Patterson solved that problem by developing a new type of quantum computer specifically for the network. Each satellite will act independently, but remain quantum entangled with the others, she said. When we activate the system, they'll work as one. Kevin Roberts continued refining the weapon aspects of the system. His simulation showed that a coordinated burst from multiple satellites could create a cascade effect in Krethine shield systems. Their technology is more vulnerable to this than they know, he explained. They've never encountered anyone who could manipulate quantum particles this precisely. As the network neared completion, tension throughout human space continued to build. The Krethine had established control over several outer colony systems, forcing humans into restricted areas. Their ships maintained tight blockades around major settlements. How much longer? Ellen asked Mary during a late-night inspection of the control center. Final satellite goes into position tomorrow, she replied. After that, we need 24 hours for system calibration. Then, she looked at the strategic display showing Krethine fleet positions. Then we find out if it works. Peter Nash ran the final calculations one more time. The quantum particle generation sequences were as perfect as he could make them. He looked at the equation that had started it all, still floating in holographic form above his desk. Sometimes the simplest solutions really are the best, he said to himself. They tried to hide in the light. Now the light will be their undoing. The final satellite moved into position under the cover of a routine cargo shipment. Throughout human space, engineers and technicians quietly prepared for the system's activation. In the control center beneath Luna Base, Mary Patterson and her team ran through the activation sequence one last time. Alan Hughes stood before the council to deliver his final report before the system test. Project Aurora is ready, he announced. We've built something they won't expect and can't defend against. For the first time since this crisis began, we have a real chance. And if it fails? Someone asked. Then we'll go down fighting, Alan replied. But I don't think it will fail. We're about to show the Krethine that they shouldn't have underestimated human ingenuity. In his lab, Peter Nash sent the final activation codes to the satellite network. Each node reported ready status. Years of scientific research, months of desperate work, and humanity's best minds had created something unprecedented, a weapon of light against an enemy who thought they had mastered it. The waiting was almost over. Soon, the Krethine would learn that humanity wasn't as helpless as they thought. The light they had used to hide would become the key to their defeat. The plan began with a lie. The Human Interstellar Council deliberately leaked information about a new defensive system being installed around Earth. The data was carefully crafted, just technical enough to seem real, but with flaws that the Krethine would surely notice. Let them think we're desperate, Alan Hughes told the council. Let them think we're grasping at straws. Commander John Phillips led the task force responsible for deploying the final elements of the real defense network. His ships moved through space under the guise of routine patrols, each one carrying components of the light control system. Status report, he called from the bridge of his command ship. All ships in position. His tactical officer replied. The Krethine are watching us, just as expected. The alien ships had indeed noticed the increased activity. Their scouts followed human vessels at a distance, observing but not interfering. They seemed almost amused by the humans' apparent scramble to defend themselves. In her command center on Luna Base, Lisa Martinez monitored the Kratheen communications they could intercept. "They're taking the bait," she reported to Alan. "Their fleet commanders are discussing our primitive attempts at defense." "Perfect," Alan replied, studying the strategic display. "How long until they make their move?" "Based on their communication patterns, less than 48 hours. They're gathering their forces for what they think will be a final push." The human colonies had been prepared. While the Kratheen watched Earth's obvious defensive preparations, the real system waited silently, hidden in the network of satellites spread throughout human space. Commander John Phillips met with his ship captains via secure quantum channels. "Remember, when they attack, we retreat. Make it look real, but keep them following us into the target zones." The Kratheen made their move sooner than expected. A massive fleet, larger than any they had previously revealed, appeared at the edge of the solar system. Their ships moved with confidence, certain of their superiority. "All colonies, execute Protocol Omega," Alan ordered. The carefully choreographed plan began to unfold. Human ships near the outer colonies appeared to panic, breaking formation and retreating in apparent disorder. The Kratheen fleet pressed forward, their massive ships moving to cut off escape routes. "They're taking positions exactly where we want them," Lisa reported, watching the tactical display. "Their formation is perfect for us." Commander Phillips directed the retreat, making it look desperate but keeping to the planned paths. His ships drew the alien fleet deeper into the web of hidden satellites. On the moon, Mary Patterson monitored the light control network. "All systems nominal," she reported. "Quantum particle generators at full capacity. Ready on your order." The Kratheen commander sent a message to all human forces. "Your pitiful defenses cannot save you. Surrender now and accept relocation, or face extinction." Alan Hughes smiled grimly. "Send our response." Through every communication channel, a simple message went out: "We choose to fight." The Kratheen fleet surged forward, their weapons charging. They expected to find Earth protected by the defensive system they had detected. Instead, they found seemingly helpless human ships retreating toward their homeworld. "All ships in position," Commander Phillips reported. "Ready for Phase 2. Colonial Defense Forces report ready," Lisa added. "The Kratheen fleet is fully committed." Alan Hughes stood in the command center, watching as the largest alien fleet they had ever seen moved confidently into the kill zone. Everything depended on the next few moments. "Dr. Nash, is the system ready?" he asked. Peter Nash, monitoring from his lab, checked the final calculations one last time. "Ready, sir. All quantum particle generators synchronized." Alan took a deep breath. "Execute." Mary Patterson activated the network. Throughout human space, hundreds of hidden satellites simultaneously released precisely tuned quantum particles. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The Kratheen ships, spread out across human space in attack formation, suddenly became fully visible. Their cloaking systems, confronted with the quantum particle field, failed completely. "Phase 2 complete," Mary reported. "Moving to Phase 3. The human ships that had been retreating suddenly turned to face their pursuers. Commander Phillips gave the order: "All ships, battle positions." The Kratheen, surprised by the failure of their cloaking systems, began to realize something was wrong. But before they could react, the second wave of quantum particles hit their shields. Kevin Roberts, monitoring the shield disruption effect, called out, "Direct hit. Their shield harmonics are destabilizing across the board." The trap was complete. The Kratheen fleet, so confident in their superior technology, found themselves visible and vulnerable. Their ships, designed to fight while cloaked, had sacrificed conventional defenses for stealth capability. "All human forces," Commander Phillips broadcast, "execute attack pattern Delta." Human ships, seemingly outgunned moments before, now struck at exposed weak points in the alien vessels. The Kratheen tried to regroup, but without their cloaking technology, and with their shields compromised, they were fighting a battle they hadn't prepared for. "They're trying to retreat," Lisa reported, watching the tactical display. But the quantum field is affecting their dry systems. Helen Hughes watched as the mighty Kratheen fleet found itself trapped by the very technologies they had relied on. Send the message, he ordered. Across all frequencies in languages the Kratheen could understand, the human response went out. Your ships are disabled. Your forces are exposed. We offer you the chance to surrender and negotiate. For several tense moments, there was no response. The Kratheen ships hung in space, their superior technology turned against them by human ingenuity. Finally, a response came. The Kratheen Supreme Commander himself spoke. You have surprised us. Perhaps we were hasty in our judgment of human capabilities. We prefer peace, Alan replied. But we will fight if we must. The choice is yours. The battle that everyone had expected to end human independence instead became the moment that established humanity as a force to be reckoned with. The Kratheen, faced with the failure of their technology and the effectiveness of human innovation, had no choice but to reconsider their approach. Commander Phillips watched from his bridge as the Kratheen fleet powered down their weapons. Sometimes, he said to his crew, the best victory is the one that leads to peace. In the Luna Base Command Center, Alan Hughes looked at the tactical display showing the disabled Kratheen fleet. Begin negotiations, he ordered, but keep the light control system active. Trust needs to be earned. The strategic play had worked perfectly. Humanity had turned apparent weakness into strength, used their enemies' overconfidence against them, and changed the balance of power in their corner of space. Admiral Carol Bennett stood in the newly constructed Peace Hall on Luna Base, watching as the Kratheen delegation entered. Even without their advanced technology, they were impressive. Tall beings with iridescent scales and multiple eyes that seemed to absorb light. Welcome to human space, she said formally. This time as guests, not invaders. The Kratheen Supreme Commander, who called himself First Light Seeker, inclined his head. Your victory was unexpected. We have much to discuss. The negotiations that followed would reshape the future of both species. Alan Hughes led the human diplomatic team, while Lisa Martinez coordinated with colonial representatives via quantum link. Our terms are simple, Alan explained. Recognition of human sovereignty over our current colonies, a non-aggression treaty, and open channels for future communication and trade. First Light Seeker studied the proposed terms on the holographic display and the light control technology. What assurances do we have that it won't be used against us again? The same assurances we need that your fleet won't return, Alan replied. Trust must go both ways. In his lab, Peter Nash was already working on something new. The quantum particle research had opened doors he hadn't even imagined before. Kevin Roberts worked beside him, helping to refine the calculations. We could use this for more than defense, Kevin said, showing Peter a new simulation. Imagine using quantum entangled particles for faster-than-light communication, or even transportation. Peter smiled. The Kratheen tried to conquer us, but they might have given us the key to the next great leap in human technology. The council chambers buzzed with activity as reports came in from across human space. Mary Patterson presented the final analysis of the light control system's performance. The network exceeded all expectations, she reported. With some modifications, we can turn it into a permanent defense grid. Not just against the Kratheen, but any potential threats. Council President Morris nodded. Implement the upgrades. But keep in mind, this technology makes us powerful. We must be wise in how we use that power. Commander John Phillips, promoted for his role in the victory, established new training protocols for the colonial defense forces. We won't always be able to rely on technological surprises, he told his officers. We need to be ready for anything. The changes rippled through human society. The knowledge that humanity wasn't alone in the universe and could hold its own against advanced civilizations sparked a renaissance in science and engineering. Dr. Richard Chen found himself leading a new department focused on xenodiplomacy, Understanding other species isn't just about survival anymore, he explained to his staff. It's about growing as a civilization. Alan Hughes worked with the Council to establish what became known as the Hughes Doctrine, a set of principles for dealing with alien civilizations that balanced openness with caution, strength with diplomacy. We were lucky this time, he told the Council. The Krethine underestimated us, and we had brilliant people who found their weakness. We can't count on that happening again. The doctrine called for continued technological development, but also emphasized the importance of diplomatic solutions and cultural understanding. The light control system became a symbol, not of human military might, but of human ingenuity and adaptability. Lisa Martinez led the effort to establish new early warning systems across human space. The Krethine taught us a valuable lesson, she said during a briefing. There are others out there, and not all of them will be friendly. We need to be prepared. The Krethine, for their part, proved to be different from what humans had initially thought. Once they recognized humanity as equals, they showed a willingness to share knowledge and establish trade relations. First Lightseeker explained to Alan during one meeting, "Our initial aggression came from tradition, not true understanding. Your response has helped us see that perhaps some traditions need to change." The peace treaty was signed 6 months after the battle. The ceremony, broadcast throughout human space, marked the beginning of a new era. Both species pledged to learn from each other while respecting boundaries and sovereignty. Susan White, now an ambassador to the Krethine, found herself helping bridge the gap between the two civilizations. "They're not so different from us," she observed. "They just needed to learn that strength comes in many forms." The light control technology, meanwhile, evolved. Peter Nash and his team discovered new applications that revolutionized space travel and communication. The quantum particle network became the foundation for humanity's next wave of expansion among the stars. Admiral Bennett, standing again in the Peace Hall a year after the victory, looked out at the Earth hanging in the black sky. A Krethine ship passed by, its presence now a normal sight in human space. "We went from nearly losing everything to opening up new possibilities," she said to Alan Hughes, who stood beside her, "all because we learned to control light." Alan nodded. "And because we remembered what makes humanity special, not just our technology or our weapons, but our ability to turn challenges into opportunities." The Human Interstellar Council adopted a new motto, "Through light to understanding." It served as a reminder that their greatest victory hadn't come from destroying an enemy, but from finding a way to turn that enemy into an ally. As humans and Krethine began working together, exploring the mysteries of space and science, one thing became clear. The light that had almost divided them had become the bridge that united them. The future, bright with possibility, beckoned to both species. "The war brought us to the edge of extinction," Alan wrote in his final report. "But peace has taken us to the threshold of a new age. We face the future not in fear, but in hope, knowing that whatever challenges await us, humanity will find a way forward." And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, other civilizations took notice, realizing that humanity was not to be underestimated. The species that had turned light itself into a weapon had proven itself worthy of respect, and perhaps a little caution.